So it looks like I nearly have everyone muted except for perhaps Michael. I don't have Michael muted, but I think it should be okay. And with that, I am going to go to my share screen so that we can talk about the really fun stuff that is getting out amongst them. I mean, amongst all of those cemeteries and cemetery markers, having a good time and yet being very safe and secure as we do that particular thing. So let's see where you are. We'll do that. And we will share that and get rid of this if we can. Go to the slideshow. I'll talk myself through this. Slideshow from the beginning. Okay. Are we okay? And can you see this? Just wave at me if you can.
I can see it.
Okie dokie. Thanks, Gary. I'm going to count on Gary for the first few minutes anyway to make sure that this thing is moving through. When we talk about cemeteries or going to a cemetery visit, you really do need to put a list of things together. I was smug. I was just totally confident when I went to Minnesota a couple of years ago. I knew I was visiting at least one large cemetery, if not more, and I was just smug. I knew I had everything on my list. All I can tell you is I was wrong. A cemetery to me is another type of archival visit. It's a little easier to get into. The good news is most of them even stayed open. Yeah, at least the gates did, even though you couldn't get a lot of help, but a lot of them stayed open during COVID. So what are cemeteries and what do they tell us? Dean Koontz is one of my favorite writers and evidently a favorite writer for a couple of other people. I've found this quoted a couple of times by other people, and none of us, I believe, could say it better than Dean Koontz in his book, Fear Nothing. It's a mystery. He says, the gravestones are like rows of books bearing the names of those whose names have been blotted from the pages of life, who have been forgotten elsewhere, but are remembered here. So some basics to know. Cemeteries to me, and being able to be in a cemetery and walk the rows, walk the area, even go around the total perimeter, it's very important for us because it's going to reveal previously unknown information about your ancestors and their related families. I've never had a time that I've gone into a cemetery to look at stones or just to take pictures that I haven't found something that made a difference in my family history. I have found maiden names, sometimes on the stone, but frequently in relation to the actual cemetery listing held in an office at the cemetery. I have found relationships I did not know about. I have found others who actually owned the plot that my family was in, and I wondered why my family, a considerable number of them, were planted, so to speak, in that particular place owned by someone else. I've had to make myself aware of state and local laws governing burials. Just so you know, you're going to be able to find in your local library or your local state law library access to laws of the past for a particular state. They are just great resources. Most of them are out online. You're going to have some access to them depending on how far back it goes. In Montana, it's real important, as it is in many Western states, to find out if it was legal to bury at a so-called home place. It wasn't too long ago in a program at PBS where we all discovered, if we were watching, we discovered a particular plantation held now by a person whose family had actually been enslaved on that plantation. And there, yes, there was a family graveyard there that is being investigated. In Montana, is it legal to bury someone on a ranch? Probably one of the most important things you can ask yourself is there a sexton or a person who takes care of the information for a cemetery? Because sextons, believe me, they do everything. And if you can find the sexton or find the hours that a sexton is at a particular cemetery, you want to contact that sexton before you ever go on your trip. I am just trying to get this to move. So let me tell you about my great-great-grandma. I knew her, only her name, Jadwiga Wodars, 1833 through 1901. I'm going to tell you, I knew the name Wodars when I started finding out about her. I knew the name Wodars, the surname, from my grandma's little memory guide that she had put together. It was just a little 6 or 8 page thing. I found this woman actually in a census in 1900 in Minnesota, and there she was Hedwig Wodars, noted as an immigrant from Silesia. And she was living with my great uncle, John Wodars. I knew nothing else about this woman, but I did recognize that from the age on the census, she had to be a previous generation to that of John. I did not know her birth year. I'm going to tell you right now, I found it at a graveyard. Wow, was that exciting. I didn't know her maiden name. I found it in church records at that Catholic school in Browerville, Minnesota, that kept the cemetery records. Wow. So that was pretty cool. Her obelisk grave marker in the Catholic cemetery at Browerville was elaborate. So I figured she had to be pretty important in the family. And by then I'd figured out she was a previous generation, either a great-great-grandmother or, dare I hope, a great-great-great. Well, that didn't work out. I'm just sorry that right now, Linda's going to join us in a little while, but my cemetery buddy, Linda Long, took the pictures because I was too excited and I was not taking good pictures. But you always want to have your camera along. That's one of the first tools you'll need. I'm going to show you some things from this cemetery and let you know that, you know, I was savvy. I had looked out at findagrave.com and the Wodars family was not identified there. The Nanick family was not identified there. And it said 80% of the cemetery had been recorded. However, what I found out was when I went to that graveyard, this particular grave for Jadwiga Wodars had not been recorded, nor had her associated Nanick family. So my visit resulted in a record, which I was able to put into Find a Grave.
The salad making
Basics to know. Somebody is whispering. Could you please mute yourself? Basics to know. You need to be able to take a picture like this when you're going into or prior to entering that cemetery so that you've got some sort of context. This helps you to establish context for yourself, because if you go, as we did on this trip, to a few cemeteries, pretty soon, you know, when you only see the stones, they kind of all look alike, but they're really not alike. So this is the Catholic cemetery. And no, I want you to notice here that there are trees way in the background. This Catholic cemetery, the actual graves did start right in the foreground over to the left. And they started in about 1899, probably 1900. This is in Browerville, Todd County, Minnesota. Yes, there was a grove of trees. One of the only grove of trees in the whole place was beside this family that I'm talking about. My great grandma's obelisk is actually where I'm standing and taking the picture toward the trees. Why am I taking that? From my memories, because when I visited this in 2017, this was the only grove right inside the perimeter of this cemetery. Yes, there were trees way in the background, but not here. I took a picture. I was so excited. This is from the side. And if you look at this, this is Jadwiga's stone. If you looked at it from another view, you would be able to tell that
See, I
on
had you
top.
know last Tuesday, but
Can you please mute yourself? This one has a cross on top. I didn't take it from that particular feature. Here it is a little closer. I got a little closer to it, and you can see that her name is Jadwiga Wodars. I was excited at this point, hollering to Linda, because it told me down underneath her name, just a few lines, that she was born in 1833. I had not known that before. I only knew that she died December 23 of 1901 because I had been able to trace that down by calling a school secretary. This is the picture Linda took. Again, just by carefully looking at and reflecting the sun back on this, and you're going to be able to see what my hints are here, but suddenly you can see that Jadwiga Wodars was born in 1833. I cannot remember what P-U-Z-I-L-Z means, but it is a month, the 15th of a particular month in 1833, and she died December 23 of 1901. It's an elaborate stone. She was the first one, it looks like, that was buried even in that row. And so I knew that she was probably much beloved. Take a look at, even if this is 120 years old, this stone still has the flowers at the top. It still has the cross at the top. It's been taken care of through the years. But it was not out at Find a Grave. We went back into town after taking several hundred pictures. It took us several hours. Went back to the Catholic school where the records were kept because we asked someone at the one cafe in town named the cafe. And we were able to look at the only burial record that I would find, but it's a record of interments and it's been kept continuously. Notice that she's on page 13. So there had been some before her. When I went through, I was already aware with Wodars, I was aware that it could have an associated differentiation of the name like Wodash, because that's the actual pronunciation of Wodars in Silesia. It's Wodash. And so I could look at and say, I'd better get that gravestone, or Linda, we'd better get that gravestone. Because we took hundreds of pictures in this particular graveyard. Lovely graveyard. And the bugs stayed away from us at least until nearly noon. I was able to get other family names like Nanik. There's a whole row of them right there. To get the name of Ostrowski, the name of my great aunt whose husband was picked for her by her father. And the Ostrowski name is there. By the way, in the 1950 census, I recorded hundreds of Ostrowskis in Minnesota. So those Ostrowskis are still there. So those things are important. Get all of those other headstones. Just don't be excited by one particular. That meant also looking at headstones where the second name, if it had a maiden name, if it had Nanik or Ostrowski, we got those too. So when you're visiting a cemetery, you need to prepare yourself. What should you wear? Well, even if it's a warm day, do it early in the morning then. But get yourself some long pants that you're wearing, a long sleeve shirt, some good sturdy shoes, no sandals, please. Get yourself gloves. Do whatever you've got to do. A hat would be very, very good to shade your face. Sunglasses, all of these. I mean, you could make a list for yourself of these things. I did. I still forgot some things. Be aware of critters out there. Could there be snakes? In Montana, in some places, we know we have to be careful of that. And it's probably going to influence the time of year of your visit. I'm not sure I would want to be out at St. Peter's Mission right now, midday, when there might be snakes crawling through. That's one place, but we've also found them right here in Great Falls, and I'm sure Helena has, and various places. Insect repellent. Linda and I can't remember, but I don't think we had insect repellent that day. And about 11:45, we finally pleaded for mercy and said, and retreated from that graveyard, because there were many little black, I call them tsetse flies or whatever, but there were many of them and they were swirling around us. Tools to take in your backpack. Make a list, folks, of things you absolutely need to have. I mean, I needed things like Kleenexes. I knew that, the standard things that would be with me. A camera with batteries, more batteries, so that you've got the batteries you need. A notebook, a pen or a pencil. I prefer a pencil myself, but have at her for whatever you like. Grass clippers. I forgot them. A trowel. I forgot it. A whisk broom. Yep, I didn't have it. I had an umbrella, never did use that. I had flashlights, so I could cast a shadow on a stone if I needed to. I did not have a spray water bottle or a damp cloth in a plastic bag to gently wash something off so that you didn't harm it. And that's our first little rule, is first do no harm ever to any of these stones, no matter how old they are or what you think you are doing in attempting to get mold off of them or moss off of them or whatever. Take a look at a wonderful book called The Field Guide, which I'll give you an address for in a few minutes. And that's really going to help you. I now have that on my Amazon Fire reader, and that Amazon Fire reader pretty well goes everywhere with me. So that book is a good one to have. It's recent. It's by Joy Neighbors, and she is, yep, I'll just call her pure joy. It's really cool. Take a gardening kneeler. Take a windshield screen, because you can put something like tinfoil on it to reflect the sun if you need to, away from things. And also take a good friend with you, just as I had with Linda Long, in making sure that there's somebody there who can say, come on, Jan, you've got to do it this way. This is the way that's going to work. I'm grateful that I had her there. How do you find these cemeteries? Well, death certificates will tell you right down at the bottom, usually where a body was buried or what happened to it, how it was disposed of. You might find the same information or similar information in an obituary. So knowing the date and the location of a newspaper for that period of time is important. Don't think that there might be just one newspaper. There might have been several, or in the case of times like the 1918-1919 flu epidemic out here for places in the Gulch, lots of places just had the person who died and that they had died of flu in the local gossip column. That's how I found my Uncle Niels, my great Uncle Niels, in the local newspaper in his community. It's the only place that I found that his death was ever reported. And there was quite a paragraph about it. Be aware of cemetery name changes through time. They'll drive you crazy. In Great Falls, we get asked what the difference is between the old and the new cemetery that we have for our largest cemetery area. There is no difference today, but at one point, some people said, oh, they're buried in Old Highland, or oh, they're buried in New Highland. Be aware of what happens when a cemetery goes bankrupt, like Sunset Memorial Gardens in Great Falls did. And today, many people just call that the Manchester Cemetery. Many people call it the one out by Vaughan Cemetery. And each and every one of those name changes are going to be reflected on death certificates. So you do have to be aware that the cemetery name can change. We'll talk a little bit about how to find that information in a few minutes. Well, you can look out at findagrave.com. It's a free spot. And if you are not using that to get information about your family or your extended family, you are missing one great bet. There's over 200 million graves out there alone, just in our country, let alone other countries, at the Find a Grave sites. These have been put in there by volunteers just like you and me, but volunteers frequently put in way more information than just the grave site. I know that one of our members, Diana Kay, has been able to find lots of information, good, solid information about her families simply by looking at what has been put into Find a Grave. So if you're not using that, get with it and do that now. Billion Graves is another great site, and it has, as one of its missions, it has people actually recording the GPS for particular graves. And so that's another good one too. You're going to find that Find a Grave and Billion Graves, along with Interment.net, all kind of overlap one another. And that's good because sometimes you'll find conflicting information and you're going to have to go after which one might be the right one that has good information for you. Interment.net is an independent source, which has been going for a long, long time. It's different in that these are usually put in individually by family members. At Find a Grave and at Billion Graves, you might find some people like Sue from our society who put in, a few years ago, she put in way more than 50,000 pictures and the information for graves in Great Falls. And there have been many others along with her. And I'm sure there are in Helena and in Bozeman and Billings, Missoula, across the state. But Interment.net is a little different because those are put in usually individually by families, and you might find even more information there. Incidentally, we have people in Montana, I know, who do Find a Grave and put in the information for a particular person who has died, but they also search out the obituary and will put that in too. So I always look beyond when I'm looking at Find a Grave or Billion Graves or any of these. I look to see if there's anything else in not just the particular person I'm looking for, but also their associated families who are in that particular graveyard. You might find something in those other obituaries. At familysearch.org, at their wiki, you can, of course, in order to find a cemetery, you can search on the state, the county, and the city, and it may tell you that information. I'll tell you, Find a Grave, I think, is coming up fast on that one, but all of these are good. And of course, if you're out just looking at local cemeteries and their caretakers, you're going to want to get a hold of that person called the sexton. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little while and where you can find more information on what sextons do, but also if you want to become one for a local place, what do you have to do to become that particular person? Most of them are volunteers. In the cemetery, drive through totally before you walk through. When Linda Long and I were in Chicago, this was of great benefit. Those cemeteries there, of course, were huge, but it also gave us the opportunity to really get some information from the sexton or the people in the office of a particular cemetery. It helped us to note the layouts. We could look at the cemetery rules. And of course, we all need to be very respectful. Again, I would advise that you do just what I did when I showed you the pictures earlier of the Catholic cemetery at Browerville. Take pictures of the cemetery sign. We did. Take pictures of the gates and the entrance buildings. We found no buildings there, but that was kind of a clue. We knew that there were Catholic churches in town. We knew there was still a Catholic school in town, and it helped us to decide where we might want to go for those pieces of information. I had previously called that Catholic school about 2 years before, and the lady there had been quite helpful in looking up that particular date of death for my great-great-grandmother. When you take pictures of the sign, the gates, the entrance, they're for your visual journal, and they should go right into your family story for other people who follow you, because they're going to want to go out to see these cemeteries too. Your once or your constant looks in a particular cemetery will still not give them the visceral joy of planning their own visit. So share those with family. Get the lay of the land beforehand. Get some maps. Find out if there's tour guide information or history or cemetery handouts, because these are going to give you perspective and they will help you with your search. In our library, we have a 3-ring binder of all kinds of information that people have given us. Not necessarily a formalized book, but boy, it has lots of information, and it can help all of our volunteers and visitors as they're seeking more information. We also have big maps, and I'm willing to bet lots of other places do too. So check those historical society places for their big cemetery maps. Again, be aware of cemetery name changes. You can check with local record clerks at the county level and check for changes in newspaper ads. In the case of Sunset Memorial Gardens going into bankruptcy, it was a big deal. They went into bankruptcy just simply because the person who held the money took off and was out of the United States before anybody noticed he was gone. And that left the county with a terrible dilemma. Another association had to be formed. Check obituaries. Your ancestors could be in the same cemetery, but the name may have changed. Has a historical society or a genealogical society like the Lewis and Clark Society or the Bozeman Society made a timeline which details their cemetery name changes? Has a society made an index which indirectly gives you cemetery name changes? Did the name change when the church name changed? Boy, was I ever lucky in Browerville that the cemetery name did not change, because there had been 2 churches, 2 Catholic churches there, one attended by Germans, one attended by Silesians, and eventually after 60 some years, they merged and got a totally different name from the first 2. Remember to ask the sexton or the record keeper. She or he is in charge of everything. They're doing more than they think they're supposed to be doing. They may not even be really well aware of all the things that are attributed to sextons. Be aware that headstones weather or erode, and what are you going to do to get that good picture? Well, you might use your water spray bottle. Be careful of what water you've got in there. Lightly spray the stone to make letters legible if you need that. Work quickly. Sunlight can be helpful. You could use a mirror to redirect light, for example. I got a great hint from Joy Neighbor's book in using an 8x10 mirror. She said that could help to redirect the light. especially if it's during the low light of the day. You could use aluminum foil as a reflector and attach it to a cardboard windshield sun reflector so that it'll stand up for you. Don't take rubbings of any kind. Use no chemicals, and do no harm. It's really important for all of us that we do no harm. Here's some references, and I'll keep giving these all the way through. I have not given you a handout today. I will put a minimal one out later, but this one you want right now. If you want a family member to give you a great gift, this one's about $19 or so. It's called the Family Tree Cemetery Field Guide, How to Find, Record, and Preserve Your Ancestors' Graves by Joy Neighbors, 2017. It is available in book format, and we do have it in our Great Falls Library as of this last week. And I have it on digital format because I want it to be right there on my reader so that I can call it up. I can look at an identifying symbol that I'm not to identify a symbol that I'm not aware of or whatever. I'll tell you, it's a great bargain for the price. It's 411 pages, which is why it's nice to have it in book format, but I really like having it on my reader. Consult local cemetery record books. Who has them? Is there a copy at the graveyard? Is it the latest one? Is it the only one? In the case of Great Falls, we know we probably have some of the latest information, at least up through 2012, for the total Highland Cemetery. We have someone out there right now updating our records from 2012 up through the present. Does a local library have record books? The local historical or gen society? Or again, how about that sexton? He may or she may have a record, but keep it at their home. Cemetery plats might tell you some things. You can find those at the county level, in the county, usually in the county surveyor's area, or whoever stands in for what used to be the county surveyor, at least for the cemeteries formally organized by county official records. You'll also find many times that when you look at county plats of various types, smaller cemeteries are recorded there. You might look at burial orders issued by county level officials. Remember, any time that something happens that requires some kind of a record, there's going to be something kept. Burial orders, the records of various businesses that have mortuary records, all kinds of things like that can help you. Sometimes you'll only find one of the things. Sometimes it's a real bonus and you'll find all of them. Here's that book I was telling you about, The Family Tree Cemetery Field Guide, How to Find, Record, and Preserve Your Ancestors' Graves by Joy Neighbors. It's a great book. I highly recommend it for your use. Every one of us can use it, and it's not information. The information that's in there is not information that is going to be held permanently by you within your brain. She really has done a nice job of putting this material together. Here's another one in Montana. I love Ellen Baumler's book, The Life of the Afterlife in the Big Sky State, A History of Montana's Cemeteries. This came out not long ago, in the last couple of years. Ellen is a great historian from Helena, I believe. This one is really cool. I love this book because it gives you an idea of the various chapters and Montana early communities, how they buried people. She'll tell you some great stories. But what I love this book for, aside from all those 11 chapters, is this thing called a bibliographic essay. Yes, she tells you where she got the information, why it's important, and how she utilizes it and how you can utilize it also. So that's another really important book. If you've got one of those books, it's just a treasure. So looking at symbols on gravestones, I wish we had a couple of hours. You're going to have to use your camera liberally. You may not even notice the symbols that are on the gravestone, or you might not notice the symbols that are on the gravestones of relatives, but they are very, very important to you. Take these pictures of those gravestones at eye level, if possible. Look to see what's best, and in the advent of very best lighting. Know that these may reveal a religious affiliation. They may reveal an organization affiliation, for example, Masons or the Eastern Star or the International Order, the IOOF, military organizations or military units, whatever. Remember, especially all of these have records of some type behind them. In Great Falls, for example, if you want to find some of that information about the person's organization affiliation for the Masons, you're going to have to stop downtown, right at their building where they still hold and keep all of those records. Military headstones for sure have records behind them. They can be found. Some of these are out at Ancestry today. Some are not. Just be aware that those military headstones have records behind them, because in order to get that money to put up that, and it's minimal amount of money to put up or to help with that military headstone, forms had to be filled out, and the person's particular time in the service had to be verified. Epitaphs can reveal family feelings for a child or a mom or a dad, or they may even tell you what the particular person wanted on a gravestone. Maybe it's something that was specified by that person. One more type of record that you may look for is who was the stonecutter, and did he or she have records, or were the records turned over to the mortician? You need to check that in two places just to make sure of that. I want to show you one gravestone that is very dear to me for the statement that was on there. In finding an unmarked grave, you need to be aware of depressions and in the ground, because coffins may disintegrate. Local government offices and historians and caretakers, again, that sexton may have information about who's buried there. My great uncle Nils is buried in a place in North Dakota. No gravestone. Right next to him is another depression, no gravestone. The people there searched it out for me, and it is Uncle Nils and his young son. You can look at tax records going back to the initial time of home of the particular graveyard in the town, the burial plots, who was buried where. And then remember that you're going to look at who the people are surrounding my family members and ask, are they related to me? This is my daughter's headstone, and she knew that she was not going to live. And she wanted, this is the particular thing that she wanted on her headstone. It's something that she had in her university office. And so it says, in the end, what matters most is how well did you live? How well did you love? How well did you learn to let go? So sometimes you will find out from a family member like me exactly what that person desired, what they wanted, or what they wrote in their directions for their particular service. Carrie wrote hers there. Let's talk about the overview of a sexton's duties. There's so many duties potentially. So I'm going to give you a place to go. You can just Google this. You could Google, what does a cemetery sexton really do? Scribble that down. Or you can look at Minda Powers Douglas as historian. She has this really neat several page article at www.joincake.com/blog/cemetery-sexton/. Again, there are just so many duties that it's a very important thing for you to look at and be aware of. And it can be interesting, especially if you are working and trying to help others with finding graves. It can be very, very useful for them to know what that sexton can do for them. There's lots of information that can be given by a sexton, just in terms of all the things they find out that they have to do when they are caring for a large or even a small cemetery. There's virtual cemetery visits. It's a terrific aid for all of us. I am not going to be able to get to a couple of places in Canada, far north probably, but I know I can use their version of findagrave.com. In the United States, we have more than 200 million. They have, I'm sure, a like number, maybe a little less. We can look at billiongraves.com. All of these four sources actually, give you some opportunities to put in a request for someone to take a picture. Don't do what I did in the first place with my great-great-grandmother, Hedwig. I assumed that she couldn't be there, or that she probably would not be there, because Find a Grave, somebody had already been out there and taken most all the graves. And I was wrong. I should have put in a request at Find a Grave, and that lady who did all of the other graves at that Browerville site would have been the one who would have gone out, taken pictures of her, plus the family right around her, the Nannick and Wodar's family right around her, and given me back that information. I could have had it far sooner. So don't try to think beyond or think that you probably have all the information. That was what I thought was a brick wall, and it wasn't at all. So Find a Grave can help you. Billion Graves can help you. Interment.net may be able to help you, although they're usually looking for your information to give to them. But occasionally people give information out there. Local society members, many times with their cameras, they're just out there saying, how can I help you? What can I do? Last, let me show you some of the things. As expected, Rodney Dangerfield, what do you think he would have had put on his stone? Yep, that's right, he did. It's called There Goes the Neighborhood. Mel Blanc, or Blank, the man of 1,000 voices. I know you're going to be able to hear this right in your mind's eye as I say it. That's all, folks. That's what he had put on his. And notice the symbol there. Here's another good one. Here lies good old Fred. A great big rock fell on his head. R.I.P. Rest in peace. Here lies John Yeast. Pardon me for not rising. Here lies Clyde. His life was full until he tried to milk a bull. Ha ha, I'm pushing up daisies. Honest to goodness, these really are out there. I want you to be a safe tombstone tourist. And that means watching out for yourself very carefully if you're going to be the only one in a graveyard. Yes, you can be safe, but look around you. Scope out those cemetery maps and ask if tours are possible. Use Google Maps for a pre-tour. I've never been able to get to Yalowa, Poland, where my family came from. It used to be Yalowa, Silesia. It's maddening to me. Google Maps has a drive-by past the cemetery, but it doesn't drive in. I drive past that one every once in a while just to be chagrined once again. Take a travel friend with you. Linda was just great. Drive through the cemetery first or walk it if you feel secure. Know the area and know the egress and how to get out and get back to your car. Carry a cell phone with you and call 911 if you feel threatened or you feel kind of like something is weird, something's going on. If you're followed or harassed, get back in your car, leave the area, lock your doors, don't engage in any conversation. Even if the person who is harassing you wants you to, just get out of there. Report your incident to the police and to the cemetery office immediately. And if you see vandalism, report it immediately right when you see it. Don't wait until your visit is over. Well, I've had a lot of fun telling you a little bit about this one. I like to walk through graveyards. Probably some of the most joyful walks that I had, never admitting to my husband that there would probably not be headstones in those Norway graves, 400 miles above the Arctic Circle. But we walked lots of graveyards there. It was peaceful. It was gorgeous. And it gave me a sense of belonging and a sense of place that was quite unique. I know that you'll feel that too when you're looking. If you get the chance to attend any workshops on cleaning gravestones, working with gravestones, helping to rework or replace gravestones, I advise you to take the time to do that. Our fall schedule for Wednesdays at 11 begins on September 7, 2022. That's my plan now anyway. It's going to be on surnames. What about that surname you found? How are surnames derived across countries and ethnicities? Did those surnames really get changed? When can you find the first evidence that somebody really changed the information and kept that particular name? How many variations have you found? How many misspellings or what you think are misspellings? We're going to talk about surname mapping and how it can help, and coats of arms and family crests and surname legal changes, and also, frankly, those AKAs, those also known as, because you're going to find them in your family. So this ends the schedule for now for this part of the season. During the summer, I will at least once or twice a month turn on I will turn on our site, our Zoom site. I'll announce it beforehand. I'll have it open down here at the library. You'll see just what you see behind me, the books behind me. And what it'll be is it'll be a day that I'm actually in here. I'm in here on Mondays and Wednesdays and Saturdays. And I'll keep it open for 3 hours in case you have any questions. I'll just announce it beforehand and say it's a Zoom open session for any questions. If I can help you, or you just want to make a comment, or you just want to tell me very excitedly about a trip you've taken or whatever, it's going to be open once in June, once in July, and once in August, probably about the mid-month. Well, I'll stay away from holidays. So before we go, do you have questions for me? You can unmute yourself if you care to.
Hi, this is Debbie.
Yeah.
I have a question. I'm from Billings. Is there any way I need to pay for some of this cost for your Zooming and everything? I just feel like I need to do something.
I'll tell you, Debbie and Phil and Shar, other people, this has been our pure joy in Great Falls to be able to do this. And it's been my pure joy to be able to share my expertise with you. So no, but I'll tell you what you can do, Debbie, is if you're looking, can you help someone else? Can you do something for someone else or spread the word? I don't mind that people come in from other states or whatever. Do something like that. Cheryl has a suggestion for you.
Good.
Speaking as the treasurer of the society, the one that who actually deals with the money, she doesn't.
There you go.
If you feel so inclined, you can make a donation to us. It is not mandatory by any means. Like Jan says, we are thrilled to do this for you. But if you are up in Great Falls, ever stop in also just to see our library.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we
Yes.
are a very unique library in this area.
Yeah.
Great. Thank
So-
you.
We think we're about 5th in size this year for the Northwest.
Yeah.
Wow. Great. Thank you.
Yeah, but thanks anyway for thinking about us.
Mhm.
and for the things. If nothing else, Debbie, Phil, Shar, Kathy, Dodie, think of taking some time, even one day, 1 hour, a couple of hours to do a voluntary project that'll help get more information out there for everybody. That's what we're about.
Right. Well, I'm still kind of learning how to do all this, but I listen to your sessions. I even listen to the one in Bozeman. And of course, we have the 2 in Billings. So, I mean, I'm kind of, like I said, we're trying to build a house, and it's like, oh boy, this is going to get kind of thin this summer for me doing any kind of research and stuff. But I sure enjoy listening and getting more and more ideas, and kind of overwhelming, but it's fun.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Thank you for all your help.
Yeah.
Jan,
Yes.
Jan, in Helena, we have started up our volunteer time at Lewis and Clark Genealogical Society and State Library within the public library. And we are open on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays from 1 to 3.
Cool.
We are desperate for people to volunteer. If a person would just volunteer 2 hours a month, that would help us a great deal. We do have some slots open on Tuesdays at the moment. Thursdays and Saturdays are pretty good, but we always need subs as well. So I see my Helena people there. I won't name you. I won't point the finger, but we could use a lot of help.
Yeah.
And we help whomever comes in. And if no one comes in, we have a dedicated computer with Ancestry and Heritage and several others that you can use yourself. If no one shows up, you've got 2 hours of research time that you can do for yourself.
Good going.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, Mary, that is so cool. I know one of the other things, Mary, that you guys have done, that your library has done that I think is really neat is, of course, when you had to kind of cut down your space, etc., you did something really neat. You had a lot of your books copied, and you said once that these are getting a lot of use out online. Is that true?
That's true. Karen Huck, our librarian, has the figures, but books that the library in Salt Lake did not have requested to scan them. So we had, I'll say 6 months, maybe it was longer than that before the pandemic hit, that we had to quit, that they scanned, I don't know how many books, how many pages. And they are now, free online through Family Search and through the library, for the library in Salt Lake.
So you're able to get a count on those.
Yes.
Oh, that's neat. I mean,
We'll have to talk to Karen. We have to talk to Karen about that.
but library access is library access is library access. It's just so cool. I mean, I know, we have, like you, we have a partnership with the local library. We're a little different again because we actually, Great Falls Gen Society owns all of its own books. So we have that, they are ours. And so as we put things together, or what we call our one-of-a-kinds, we have lots of one-of-a-kind stuff for the county. Maybe it's an index we've created and we have the information because we have all the school censuses up through 2006, or maybe it's the first National Guard, the first 16 years of it with their records or whatever. But those are the neat things to be able to have. And those are the things that we continue to look at in addition to our mortuary records here that we're getting scanned. We want them to be out there so that people can have the advantage of using those. Well, this has been a fun session. I hope that you guys have fun for the summer. Let us know what's going on. I know you know my email. And please share what you've been doing, how you've been growing with your family. If you've got a question or we could help you in some way, let us know. I think this has been one of the greatest things that's happened, if there can be anything great, out of a pandemic is the helping across societies that's gone on in Montana. I have just seen it blossom, and it is fun. It's the super way to go, I think, in terms of just everybody helping everyone else to have a good time with genealogy and advance the things that we are doing. So with that, anyone else got any other questions?
I just wanted to let you know, I wrote down everybody.
Okay, Cheryl's got them all. That's great. Please, everyone, have a good summer. Take good care of yourselves. Stop in. There are days that I don't know, Mary, is there a place where you have people sign in down in Helena? Because Carolyn and I stopped there. That's our favorite place to do our genealogy talks with one another, is in your library.
If there's not a library there, we don't have a place for someone to sign in, and maybe we need to look into that.
Tell you what we've been doing, Mary. I think it's in the Virginia books, but we've left you notes a couple of times. I can't remember. I think it might be in the Virginia books, but I'll have to take a look and see when I'm down there again.
Okay,
It was
I
too
want to
much-
say that Lewis and Clark County Genealogical Society and Montana State Genealogical Society Library, the books there belong to those two societies. They do not belong to the public library.
Cool.
They are ours.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else from anybody? Oh, you
Thank you
guys.
very much.
Oh,
See you
yeah.
in September.
See you. And I'm going to miss you guys. It's been fun.
Thanks.
All right, I'm going to sign everyone off. Go have lunch. Okay, thanks.
Bye.
Bye.